Well, school has started, and welcome everybody back. Early September, and we are back in school. We are back in the schedule. We are back to the salt mine, all of us, in the institution of American public school. So welcome everybody. This is the first official podcast for the 2019-2020 school year. So I just want to fill you in on a couple of things. Some of them I wrote down, actually took notes, so we can keep our wits about us and stay on schedule. And I'll probably add some other things too as we go through and converse for the first time this year. Again, this episode is sponsored by Udemy and Teachable. I have material on both sites. I was contacted by TabletWise, and I'm going to see about putting material on their content platform and working with them as well. So we'll see how that goes. But the idea is to create, and I'm glad actually that TabletWise contacted me because I need to create more courses, an SAT course and more grammar, literacy, tools for learning. The lost tools of learning need to be found again, and we need to find them. You need to create art, you need to write, draw, talk, and have a full life. That's important. School at one point, I think, played a role in that very, very early on in its existence, and then it got corrupted about 100 years ago, and since then, it's all over. So, people got educated before that. Let's remember that. That came up actually today at work, where I was asking people, we were talking, the students have been trained by media and society, I should say by the corporate overlords. The corporate overlords in media and on the internet have done a really good job at training our young people to get in the DeLorean, go turn on the flux capacitor, and take their morals and what they feel is right and our practices and transport them back to the olden days. And you see that with these stupid kids on campus toppling statues, right? They've turned on the flux capacitor to 11, and because George Mason or James Madison or Thomas Jefferson or somebody had a Confederate flag or owned slaves, they are wanting to tear down the statue because they've gotten in the DeLorean and gone back in time and imposed their morals on the past. So anyway, I ask students about education in school. We talk and go all over the map. And we also go through time. And I was asking them, how do you think people got educated? There weren't schools per se back in the olden days. There were one-room schoolhouse, maybe, and people went for anywhere from 6 days to 6 years, and then that was pretty much it. Because by the time you were 12, 13, 15, 16, you were out of that and living your life. And people learned a lot. In global class, I go way back in history to the mystery schools, and I, explain to them that the ancients understood everything about the angles and the stars and the math that goes along with it. Remember, astronomy is angles, it's math, it's space, time. It's complicated. And the ancients understood that. And they figured a lot of it out. They even figured out something like precession, meaning the Earth's spinning on its axis, and it takes 26,000 plus years for the axis to make one revolution. It's called the Great Year. Precession. Look it up. Very interesting. Well, the ancients had figured that out. You could understand how they figured out how the constellations spun, and they would spin every, 1 degree a year, that the pole star wasn't always the pole star. That's precession at work. And also the constellations spin as the Earth spins. and the constellations and the figures in the sky, Capricorn, Aries, Sagittarius, that kind of thing. But they'd figured out the axis spinning, and it took 26,000 and change years. If these were hunter-gatherer, berry-eating primitives, how did they do that? In theory, they shouldn't have been able to figure out any of that stuff. They shouldn't have been able to figure out basically anything other than where to eat, where to get shelter, and where to go to the bathroom. So, but that's not the case. Ancient India, the Far East, the temples in North, Central, and South America, showing deep knowledge in the heavens and the stars, and things like precession, the great year, measurements of time and space. And they didn't have a school. They didn't go to Mount Vernon High School. And as much as I loved the place, they didn't go to Brooklyn Tech High School. But they did it. They figured it out. Maybe it was just a small group of geniuses. I don't know. Maybe Osiris, Jesus, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, and Viracocha really are all the same group of people who came from the water and taught civilization to the masses. I don't know. But it all seems, showing up at a 50-year-old, 70, 60-year-old building built like a box, and hoping that students listen to my very vivacious and entertaining words and exciting class. I don't know, it just doesn't measure up. Brings me to my first point. I was trying to get these things across to the 9th grade. I have a fun schedule. I have a freshman Global 1 class. And my assistant principal asked me if I would do it, and he said, please. And he didn't have to say please. I was going to take it anyway. But he's a professional and actually was a nice guy about it. And I was all over the teach history, out of license, cover historical concepts. It's fantastic. So I was bringing this stuff, mystery schools, the sun, the ancient stories that surround the sun and the sun, S-O-N, S-U-N. All that kind of stuff is great. And we were just talking about survival and olden days stuff. And now the wonders of modern technology on my smart board, I go to Google Earth on the smartboard, and I could just touch my finger and spin the world around and have it look great. It looks like a vision from space. I can do the map version, or I can do the real version, the space view version, so to speak, Google Earth. And I came to Africa, and there's that brown strip, of course, the desert at the top of the continent. And I asked the students what it was. They didn't know. Which is a little strange. But I then, went back, I said, okay, we have this, we've got all the green area down here below it, and some at the top, and there's Mediterranean, and there's Southern Europe, and all this kind of stuff. And so, there's a desert. Some kid, I think a student hazarded a guess that it was a desert. And that information spread, as it does in a classroom. And they didn't know the name of the desert. I had to tell them. Those students, there were about 20 of them in the room. Just under, 17, let's say. They didn't know that it was the Sahara Desert that covers thousands of square miles in northern Africa. Now, I'm not here to rag on students, right? If a student doesn't know that that's the Sahara Desert, and I wasn't always this way, but now I am uncomfortable blaming the student. Somebody has failed that 14-year-old. That 14-year-old does not know where the Sahara Desert is, or that that's what it's even called, or that that's what it looks like. Or if you're looking at Africa, a huge percentage of it is the Sahara Desert, the whole northern area. Multiple people have failed. Now, I know students can forget. I understand it's not all the instructor. I get it. I hear you. But something, even if the school teachers hammered in Sahara Desert, and the student comes to me and does not know on the first day of freshman global history and geography that that's the Sahara Desert. At the home, do you have a placemat under your plate that is the world map? Do you have anyone else? So I keep coming back to the answer must be no. I mean, I don't see how you have somebody there who cares and is trying to make a difference and serious about it, and the student still does not know that the Sahara Desert is where it is. So that was a surprise. A lot of failure going on in the adult world. The other thing is, these students were born in 2005. Think about that. Born in 2005. Streaming video, social media was starting to move. Wasn't everywhere and everything like it is now, but there was social media in 2005. People had MySpace profiles. I opened up my Facebook profile. Don't look for it because I deleted it. But in my personal Facebook page, I opened up in a very, very late 2005. No one was on Facebook, but MySpace was big. There were a few others that I'm forgetting that the students were talking about. I didn't know what they were then. I don't remember what they are now, but they were doing stuff. Those students the students today have never been sentient and not had a world with a smartphone. When did the iPhone come out? In middle of 2007? When they were 2? There have always been phones. You know, you talk about the world before the internet with this group of students, and you might as well be trying to read the Rosetta Stone. It is the world. And that's the shame of it all, going to my next topic of the phone. The phone is really a mixed bag. A lot of people are quick to pin all the ills of school, lack of education, lack of discipline, lack of time preference on the phone, on the smartphone. It's a mixed bag. I cannot completely just destroy the idea of having a smartphone in class. It's an amazing tool. The negatives are easy to spot. Students used to come into class and open up a notebook and write stuff. Now, I know that sounds throwback and retrograde and kind of Cro-Magnon to some degree, but you sit down and you write a question out, or you sit down and you write at all. Your mind has to process as you write and plan ahead a lot of things. Where's the pen going to go on the paper? Am I writing in script or print? What am I writing about? If you're answering, you have to write. You can only write physically at a certain speed, even though your mind may be going faster. So writing, because it's a slower process, forces you to slow it down and clear and collect your thoughts. The fact that that's pretty rare nowadays. And I like digital grading. I like the digital give and take with the programs that we use to have students hand in work, hand in material. You know, I like those digital tools. It makes things easier for me. Students can hand in more material. They can hand it in faster. But there's something to be said for writing stuff down on the student side. There's even something to be said for teachers writing stuff down. I might start using a dry erase board or a pad or the chalk again. I don't know. It's a weird world because it's just all ephemeral. It's all just air. It's all steam. When you have I have my plans ready. I've been doing this for a while. My plans are ready. They're up there on the smartboard. I don't have to type a thing. But it feels different. And the students come in and they've got their phones and they've got their stuff. and they're ready, and they can take a picture of the notes with their phone. I don't know how to handle that. Mister, can I take a picture of the notes with my phone? Sure. Now you have them. But you didn't write them. I don't know. I may need to change that. I may need to say, I want to see you. The only thing I'm asking you to write is the aim and the do now, or the class notes for the day. Everything else can be digital. I might have to do something like that. Maybe I'll supply paper and pens. I don't know. It's weird. But the born in '05 thing is key because it hurts the writing and the protocol and the pattern and the speed of thought and the willingness to delay gratification. It also hurts attention span. Students over the last 24 years have a much shorter attention span. That there is nothing else to talk about when it comes to attention span. It's really low. The attention span of these young people is much less. It is not the same. Don't come to me like, kids are kids, and they've just always been the same, and they're just all over the place, and they're just bonkers. No. You're wrong. Since September of 1996 till September of 2019, there's been a marked change in the need for instant gratification. And now, because of the computer that the students carry around that as a smartphone, they want everything right away. And why wouldn't they? They can get any kind of information, video, text, audio, social media, clips from favorite shows, you name it. They can get that instantly. They get my class notes instantly. I put them online. So it's causing an issue with these kinds of things. Remember, I've mentioned in a previous podcast, when you talk about waiting in line at Blockbuster for a video on a Friday night to one of my freshmen, it's like talking about the Constitutional Convention. Or in ancient Rome, when the guy in the robe would read out the news. The town crier would read out the news. Town crier, Blockbuster, same thing. It's just as foreign to these teenagers. And that's not their fault. That's just how it is. Waiting in line. You remember waiting in line for a video at Blockbuster. I remember the independent video stores before Blockbuster became a big deal. There were just little video stores in my neighborhood, independently owned stuff with VHS tapes all over the walls. So, it's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Mostly, overall, if I have to give an overview, things, the current, let me word this the right way. I don't want to say, the phone is bad, because it's not. There's a lot of positives. You can get information at all times. I'll ask questions and say, look, can you find this on your phone real quick? And it works. And students find stuff. I did that today. Today's September 11th. Can you find this? All kinds of stuff. Can you find what Jim Mars said about 9/11, or what Bill Cooper said about 9/11, or the Corbett report has for 9/11 whistleblowers? Good stuff. Yeah, boom, done, found it. Piquing students' curiosity. But overall, it's the way I want to word it carefully is the way things are now overall, because of human nature, they seem to be at a negative. They seem to be bad, just because of the things I mentioned previously. So I think that it's going to be an interesting year. You have people who are very young and have had, even if they're not wealthy, and I don't work in the wealthy district, I work in the black neighborhood at Mount Vernon High School. The wealthy people in the area send their kids to other schools, particularly private schools. And so we have people who are used to having instant gratification. Their smartphone is everything. and they don't know what the Sahara Desert is or where it is. So I think I have my work cut out for me. But here's the last thing I want to leave you with. If you're an intelligent young person, and I've got a lot of people who follow me who are, or an adult, or you're somebody's uncle or aunt, and you can help guide somebody who's young, that's how it used to be done. A lot of stuff was done at home. A lot of things were done in the neighborhood. So when you combined the knowledge and wisdom that you got at home and the knowledge of wisdom that you got from the neighborhood, neighbors, friends, kids you'd play with, your friends' parents, you learned a lot. You learned a lot. And because of the system, the New World Order, the Illuminati, the lizard brains, whatever, I don't know what you're calling the people who rule over us. But they really seem to be sprinting to the finish line. They really seem to be working extra hard with all the nonsense. And they seem to really want dumb mass herds of sheeple. They really seem to be pushing harder and harder, moving faster and faster, coming up with things to melt Americans' minds, particularly young Americans' minds, turn their mind to gravy. So the only thing I'm asking you to do is help me out. That's all. There are young people out there, and the thing that they can't take away is sensible children wish to be complete adults. Sensible children do not want to be incomplete adults. Right? John Taylor Gatto was clear about this, and he was right. So to make a person whole, to make a person complete, you don't tell them they have self-esteem. You engender it through tasks. You teach that person. You let them free to do what they will, and you help. And that can make a big difference. So keep that in mind when you're talking to someone very young, and see if you can add positive changes and positive things to that person's life. Thank you. Talk to you next time. TFT is the channel on BitChute, and it's thefreelancesteacher.teachable.com. Take care.